I'm here with Laurel Sykes. Laurel is the Chief Risk Officer at American Riviera Bank and a highly skilled risk and compliance professional with over 30 years of hands-on experience. She's also a certified regulatory compliance manager and has been published in ACAMS and Western Banker. She also has a Juris Master's in financial regulation and compliance. Laurel, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to hear a little bit about how you got started in fraud and risk and why you stayed in this industry.
So I'm probably a little unique in that I started in banking in high school as
cool.
part of an ROP program.
Wow.
And I was a teller and worked my way up through the ranks into mergers and acquisitions over time. And I worked on a merger, and when the merger was over, I didn't have a job. So I got into compliance for the first time back in 1997.
Okay.
And a couple years later, 9/11 happened. And at that point, I was asked to take over financial crimes for the bank I was working with.
Wow.
And started to get involved in anti-money laundering and fraud at that time. And then at my next institution, actually set up a fraud program, including staffing, software, and systems and process. And we're doing the same thing now at my current institution.
Nice. And what has kept you in this industry?
That's an interesting question. I think a lot of us are accidental makers. So I actually started in college while I was working in banking. I started a psychology degree and realized that biology and theory were not really my thing. I needed practical hands-on experience, but I got really passionate about banking when I started doing financial literacy in school. And when I saw the difference that we could make as bankers, and that passion kind of developed into education for small business. During COVID especially, we did a lot around PPP, loan communication, and elder financial abuse prevention. So my big passion right now is the fight against elder financial abuse.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And I am also so passionate about just like educating the public about what they need to be aware of in terms of fraud and scams, because knowledge is power. Can we talk a little bit more about your current role? Do you have any fraud or risk priorities for the year?
A lot.
Yeah,
a lot. So right now we're in the process of fine-tuning a check fraud detection platform that we implemented back in October.
Okay.
It uses functionality with MyTech, who's here at the conference now, and it looks at 24 points on a check to compare it against other checks that have been written on account.
Yeah.
And the purpose is to detect the counterfeit checks, which have historically been very difficult to catch because they don't look funny. There's not the changed words and all of that. And I think for banks, it's a really challenging area right now with all the bail fraud going on.
Yeah.
So the fraudsters, in our case, were taking stolen checks out of the mail and photocopying them.
Yes.
You know, probably a little more high-tech than that. Photocopying them onto new check stock and then negotiating them in other banks. And the bank that it's drawn off of have only 24 hours to return that check. Otherwise, it's your loss. So as we started to see that happening, we knew we couldn't keep relying on our old systems because it was the same check the client had written. It was just the pay had been changed on new check stuff. So they weren't detecting it either. They were looking at online banking, seeing the check cleared for the right dollar, the right amount, and the serial number was correct. So it was really challenging.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, in my apartment complex, there's been a number of times where someone has broken into all the mailboxes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this someone trying to commit check fraud right now?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's a huge issue. You mentioned updating some of your older technology. How are you thinking about using technology like AI, LLMs, Gen AI agents?
So we've used AI in terms of email detection the last 5-6 years.
Awesome.
So it's not really a new thing for us, but we are having to adapt our resets as new things get detected.
Yeah.
The most interesting story our CTO has been telling, well, not the most interesting story, but in terms of the emails, he was able to detect from our CEO buying gift cards, the traditional scam. And we tend to see it when a new employee starts. And as soon as they change their profile on LinkedIn, they suddenly get an email from our CEO asking for the gift card. So he had established the LLM models to check for the language in emails, and they don't get through. They're stopped.
Wow.
But the fraudsters got smart as of late, and they changed the name of our CEO to the subject wording versus the to. So now it's not matching correctly. So using those models to keep tweaking and keep changing. We also implemented a third-party platform to help our customers detect fraud. It's voluntary, they sign up for it, and it monitors their account activity. One of the things that they're looking at is the ability for our clients to upload emails and have it use the AI, figure out, does it look like a scam, and is this a potentially fraudulent email? So lots of things going on.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like you guys are very innovation forward and just always trying to utilize the best technology available and updating your models too.
Absolutely.
Because we know fraudsters are updating their tactics. So just to stay, if not ahead, as close behind them as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What are some of the challenges you faced as a woman in fraud, or do you have any advice for others?
It's a good question. I wouldn't necessarily say that my challenges have been specific to fraud, but being in banking for 30 plus years, there was definitely time earlier in my career where maybe my credibility was challenged or my experience, just because I looked more youthful or more feminine than, the bankers that people were used to working with. And, sometimes I would get told that I was too personable or bubbly or too vulnerable. And I think that the advice that I would give to anybody working their way into banking or a fraud career would be just be your authentic self. I think one of the reasons why we are successful in any way, shape, or form at helping our clients realize that fraud is happening is because of our ability to empathize and show that, compassion with the victims and help them through really, really tough situations. And I have 2 daughters as well, so I'm super proud of them and always looking to set a good example for them as their home.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like I have already learned a lot of this conversation, so I'm absolutely sure you're setting a wonderful example for them. Laurel, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.